All right, and welcome back to On Location. Do appreciate you watching, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you like the video because I think you're going to like it a lot. Today I want to take you to a place called Rottenwood Creek, and it is, yet again, we're in the Appalachian Mountains in northern Georgia, and it is a mountain stream, and I want to take you there on two different days. I want to take you there when it was overcast and kind of cloudy, and then I want to take you there when it's sunny, and kind of compare the difference and kind of show you, when you go to a location, it's not like you've just been there and it's over with. Things change over the seasons, things change over different days. This was actually taken the same week, just 2 different days, with 2 different kinds of weather. So they call it Rottenwood Creek because I guess there's a creek through there. There's a lot of wooded areas along with rocks, and I guess a lot of wood actually does start to decay and start to go down the river there. But I want to start with this particular one right here, and it kind of sets the mood for this day. I'm walking along here. There's actually a path there, and I see these kind of wonderful little gnarly branches sticking out over the creek. I love this particular shot. I guess it's not a traditional landscape, but just it feels like they're kind of like reaching out to you or looping around you. It's kind of all consuming and kind of gives you the mood that you're looking for there. I like the image a lot, and I think it's worked really well to really start this particular video off. So I was really pleased with the way that one turned out. Pretty good image. And then I want to take a look at a couple here, and this will talk about when it is overcast, how color reacts. Now, I do believe there was some rain, maybe the day previously, not this particular day, but we still did have some saturation there on the ground. And what you notice here in this particular shot, this vertical one, is the intensity of the greens and I guess a little bit of the oranges and the reds there in the leaves. It really sticks out, and this is taken in winter. That's when we're recording this video. That's what's being published. But you still get those mosses popping out, and this wouldn't happen like this on a sunny day. And we'll see further down the road here as we go through the video just how that kind of moss will look differently on a different sunny day. And I'll throw this particular one up here as well. It's, again, more of those mosses, but a nice horizontal image. And this particular creek, I'm not sure what causes it. Something must be dumped into it, or perhaps there's some sort of elements there. I'm not quite sure, but it gives you this kind of green bluish color. And I was thinking, I think it looks pretty cool. Hopefully it's not pollution or something like that, but I think it adds a nice touch to it. Now I want to show you this vertical image here of one of this particular tree there in the background. And this is pretty much the way the camera shot it. And you'll notice it's a little bit blue. And a lot of people say, well, that's a mistake the camera made. It really isn't that blue. It should be a little warmer, a little more yellow in there. But I really liked the way the camera interpreted it. So I decided, honestly, to leave a lot of that blue in there. And going back to our first image of those gnarly branches, it kind of sets a nice little mood of this particular day, because it was kind of overcast, maybe even a little gloomy, but I think it really worked here. And I love, those leaves there on that tree. This is pretty much I wouldn't say it's a dead tree, but it's resting for winter. So there's not a whole lot of color there, but it's almost like this beautiful orange glow in the middle of this blue. I think it had some nice texture. I also liked how the tree trunk there in the foreground kind of separated things, added some dimension. Almost looks like it's the tree is peeking through there. I think that was pretty nice as well. So I proceeded along here. We're about to wrap up this cloudy day, but I arrived at this point, and you remember what I was saying about that water having that unique color to it, the blue. Well, here we've got the blue plus a little bit of this orange. I actually noticed it was actually a drain that seemed to be having this it very well could have just been mud or something for construction, so I'm not sure. But it dumped this golden orange kind of dirt into the river. So in the foreground, you have that color, and then you have that blue in the background. And I think that's really what makes this image. And so in so many ways, without it, the image might be too busy, because you have, of course, the trees in the background there giving that kind of canopy look. And then you have the rocks there. But I really think the blue and the orange really makes this image. And again, you're not going to see this so much on a bright, sunny day. This overcast really brings those colors out, and that is a real advantage there. So pleased with that. Let me show you a couple more images again from that kind of more overcast day. This one I was really, really pleased with the way it works. I think the composition, honestly, was just set up for me. I just walked up and there it was. And I just love how it's just kind of like, it's just the stream is kind of going by. There's very smoothly, or so it seems in the picture anyway. You have that nice color, plus you have that nice saturation of the tree in the background, and those roots have just been seemingly placed so cleverly and carefully there over the particular rock. So I was really, really pleased with that image. I think it turned out really well. Now let me actually go ahead and advance here. I'm going to take you to the sunny day, and you're going to see kind of the differences. And we're going to start again with those kind of gnarly branches, or at least in that same area. Here's one I kind of worked with, and I kept trying to fool around with it. It was difficult, though. I had to do a lot of burning to the image to make it darker in the corners, and there's also basically some isolation of that tree. Otherwise, it's just too busy because it's all super bright because of the sun being out. But I think this worked pretty well. But again, it's a different feel than what we initially started with. But nevertheless, a good image there. Now, actually, I'll go ahead and zoom into this next one here. Not particularly conventional, but I decided to throw it in because I kind of like this look a lot. You have there the the gnarly bits, but they've been illuminated there. But again, it was, when I initially took the shot, it was all super bright and contrasty. So I did have to go definitely do a lot of darkening of the corners, really isolate that particular those little branches or twigs almost that's right there. And I actually had to create almost a stream of light with the burning of the image to create kind of a conduit of light that was actually coming and illuminating those branches. But I think overall it was fairly successful, so I was pleased with that. Let me kind of zoom out and kind of show you the whole creek, and just actually I'll show you how close to industry this particular place is. You'll see there, obviously there's a little boardwalk there. This is part of the National Park Service, this particular area. Not a national park, but controlled by them. So there's some boardwalks and things that have been put together. Not over the entire area, but at least in this part. And of course, you have that road there in the background. So a lot of times you're combating with so maybe some trash somebody had chucked over the side, unfortunately. But just to kind of give you the idea of where this is. And you have that harsh lighting in this particular case. You can see that. And it does add some dimension, but it also adds a lot of difficulty. So I want you to see that there. And talking about the harsh lighting, let me go over the next couple of pictures, and you'll see here, it's not necessarily better or worse, but it's definitely different. This was getting towards sunset, that we're definitely not quite there yet. So what I tried to do in this particular image, this vertical one, is really emphasize as much as I could the saturation there of the image. I did try and bring out the greens a little bit here as well, but it's not quite as saturated as we had on that cloudy day. But it's a different kind of image, So you can let me know in the comments which you prefer, but definitely something kind of interesting. Now this next one is another vertical shot. It was a little bit more risky here, but I like the way it turned out. It's almost like something out of I thought of the movie The Hobbit, where the hobbits live and they've got their little perfect green things like that. I loved how in this particular image I tried to bring out as much detail as possible, especially down there at the bottom when you have that green right there. And I think it kind of all works together, the way everything's kind of been saturated. I have gone ahead and probably brightened the middle a little bit more so than the sides, just to give the image a little bit more dimension. Of course, you have the tree branches, the way they're aligned in the trunks that I also think add some dimension. But I thought it was a nice little image. Again, we tried to, even in spite of the high sunlight that day, I think this one worked out pretty well. In fact, it may not have worked as well on that cloudy day, so that was a lot of fun. Now, one advantage, I think, where this really did work well with the sunny day, I'll show you this next one. This actually wasn't the same day, but it was another sunny day. You get the dimension here in the rocks, and it really just sticks out at you. That's what those shadows are creating, that three-dimensional effect that you see there. Because, it is three-dimensional, obviously. And I love how that little bit of green in the top there is peeked in. And I think that image worked out nicely as well. So we proceeded forward, and I want to take you back to that same spot. If you remember previously, we had talked about an image where there was that golden, orange, and blue that all merged together with the rocks. Let me show you this one. I do not think this image is entirely successful as that one. In fact, I knew that when I shot this one, but I wanted to bring it to you to show you the differences. You can kind of see a little bit here of the blue and the orange, but not so much. It's definitely a flatter image. You definitely start to feel the winter vibe here. The things haven't started to bloom just yet. One other note as well, when this particular day, it had rained a few days previously quite heavily. A bunch of sediment had actually gotten to the river and gotten rid of a lot of that color. That's one thing too when you're shooting water. You notice that after a big rain, a lot of debris and stuff gets in there and the color will change. So that can happen as well. Now let me show you this next one. This one actually I think did work out quite well with the light, because we illuminated those rocks there in the foreground, and in spite of the in the background there having that the stream there with some of that sediment, it looks like over by the rocks it created a kind of an isolated pool. We got some reflections there. I love the lines. It kind of draws your way up to the top there, and I thought that worked out fairly well. Okay. Now this one here, this next one where you have these wonderful little vines floating down to you. I think this was really nice. It created this nice little foreground, almost like we're framing the image there in the background with the water coming. And if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you do see a little bit of that sunlight. And I think it creates a nice dimension here. This is where we're using both shadows and sunlight, because obviously there's a lot of shaded areas here too, just because of the number of trees and things like that. Worked out really nice. I'll show you in this next one here, just a quick little close-up, a detail shot. Some of the rocks there, you know, not necessarily, not too much on our topic today, but I thought it was a nice image nonetheless. So we got that. And then there still was some, you know, this is, again, I want to show you that sunlight can add things. This is a lot of the overcast areas. With this next one, we have this huge swath of water coming across. I think it was very successful. Mostly the foreground was in the shade, so we were able to get that nice soft lighting. But if you look in the background, you do see some of that sunlight popping in to illuminate those trees there. And actually, I think that's an essential part of the image. So that actually did add some dimension here. Made it a little bit more interesting. Now, I'll take you to this image. You may remember this image from the overcast shots that we were looking at. This one I decided to interpret in black and white because, honestly, with the color shot, it was almost too washed out with the amount of sunlight that we were seeing. So I went ahead and did a black and white. I kind of like the top, how the highlights there are a little bit blown out, almost kind of frames the image. Again, it's a nice image. You know, it just depends on my mood. One day I might like this one, the next day I might like the other one. But just again, to show the different effects you can get depending on lighting conditions. So this last one I'll show you here. This is, again, a great combination of having the sunlight there as well as the shadows. You can see there in the sunlight on the top, this is talking about especially saturation. This shows you very well. You see on the top, it's not, you know, quite as saturated there. The color is a little bit more dull. It's not bad, but it's a little dull. And if you look there in the foreground, you have that wonderful blue because that is in the shadows. So it's almost like shadows are great for color. It's kind of a flat image, but there's, you know, adds some complexity to it because you can see so much. Where you have the sunlight, it's adding a lot more contrast, more dimension, but there are trade-offs. So I think that was a nice little educational activity for us today. So I wanted to go over that and show those 2 different days. So you can see, you know, just how important it may be to go out 2 different days. Go out on an overcast day. Go out on a sunny day. Go to the same location and you're going to see completely different results. Or maybe you have a preference. Say, you know what, I'm more of a cloudy day guy or gal, or I'm more into the sunlight. So depends on what you're after. But anyway, I do appreciate you accompanying me on a little journey today here. Unfortunately, I do not have Nala the cat. You may have noticed that she's gone. She's sleeping, but hopefully she'll be back soon, although no one can ever know. Please like the video. Please subscribe, whether you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook. Look at the links down below, look at my Instagram, everything is there. You don't only have the videos, but you have the photos as well, because, you know, who just wants to listen to me all day? Sometimes you want some intimate moments with my photographs. That's why I just post images as well. So, awesome. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.